All right, we're back. It's COMP228. It's week 3, lesson 3, part 1, and we're live now. We're talking about assignment 1 and 2. So let me bring up our eCentennial here. So I want to go to kind of Centennial College here and log in for you. So I'm going to kind of put these together while we speak so you understand what I'm talking about. I haven't put them up for a reason, and it's because I want to talk to you about them before I do this so we can all agree what's going on. I don't want to surprise anybody, and you know, some people will be, why is it like this? You know, and I want to talk about it. So the first one, so here's the first one we have. We have our little GitHub, which I'm pretty sure most of you are going to get 100% for, right? Because it's like, even though it's 2% or whatever, 2.5%, it's going to be okay. And this is kind of, I called it Lab 1. There are going to be other little labs that I get you to do in class, like during this time frame. I'm not doing anything like that today. Only because of time. I've got 2 crazy PowerPoint presentations to get through, which are going to cover chapters 6 and 7, which I think it's insane to try and do that in 1 week. But it's part of our mandate to speed through some of the stuff you already know, and then kind of skim over the syntax of Java as opposed to you know, the stuff you already know, which is in C#, right? So that's why it's so crazy and it's so packed. So we have a packed day ahead, right? Okay, so let's go over the actual presentation, the labs. Well, they're called labs here, but lab 1 is actually assignment 1, which I'm going to rename. And this is the one that you're going to get first. Let's take a look at this. So assignment 1, what looks like to me is pretty straightforward, and I'd like to present it to you this way, right? So you understand. So here's assignment 1. Create a class patient, right? So there's a patient class. I'm just going to rejig this a little bit while we're here together in class, so you understand. I usually use, from a fonts perspective, just to give you guys an idea of how to identify what's happening. If you see this in a different font like this, it means this is the name of the class, my recommendation to you, okay? Just from a best practices perspective, right? So create a class patient that contains an instance variable for patient ID. Right, so patient ID. If you notice this, to me, patient ID should be one, something like this, patient ID. That's what I would do. And I'm going to, you know, make this the same idea. So patient ID would be the name of your instance variable, right? So patient ID, first name. Let's, you know, look at the way I'm going to do the variables, right? This is the way I would expect you to kind of put together the variable names when it comes to your classes and objects, right? And last name obviously is going to be the same, right? So I'm using camel case here, and again, some people might want to use an underscore, and that's fine. But here's what I'm doing here with, I'm just coding it so you guys can see it, right? And who cares if it's part of my dictionary? Address is okay. That's fine. City, province, postal code. So postal code should be camel case. Right, postal code, right, because that's just the way I see it. And remember, what's the other convention we talked about? There's 2 conventions. I said camel case, and for private instance variables, what I want you to do? Underscore. So if it's a private instance variable, I'd like to see underscores. You're going to get higher marks if you follow what I asked you to do, right? If you don't do that, then I'm going to make a note that says, hey, FYI, you know, kind of stuff. You didn't follow what I asked you to do, and you're going to lose marks. Now, see where it says here, message dialog box? I'm not going to do that because a message dialog box assumes that we're doing UI, and we're not doing UI right now. So I'm going to change this to in the console. On the console, results on the console. Display the results on the console. Sorry. The reason for that is because, again, I'm moving away from UI just for this week and for these weeks, because I want to focus on UI when we get to it. And even if I have to spend an extra week on UI and be a little bit behind the other professor, I'm okay, because it can be quite confusing if you've never done it before on Java, right? Now, it's not like you've never seen this kind of thing before, but there's a few assumptions that they make in the book, and that's why I'm not really wholeheartedly, I don't really love the book so much, right? Okay, but let's take a look. So create a patient class patient that contains instance variables for patient ID, first name, last name, address, city, province, and postal code. Provide a multiple argument constructor. That's easy. To allow the initialization of data. We're going to talk about constructors a little bit more today. Provide all getter and setter methods. we've done those things. Remember those two ways to do that? You can do it by hand, and you can also use the Eclipse source pattern that we can, kind of automatically create them. Provide also a default constructor. Okay, that's interesting, a default constructor, right? What does this mean, provide a default constructor? So provide a multiple argument constructor to allow the initialization. I think what they're talking about here is an empty constructor, right? Just so that way, the empty constructor or default constructor, I'll put that in brackets, just so that you understand what that means, right? Provide a get patient info method, that's a method, and to return patient's data in a nicely formatted string. What does that mean? Printf, right? You can use printf to print it out, right? Write a driver class, right? And remember, what's the driver class? This is a review from last week.
The one that has the main method?
The one that has main method, we called ours program last week, right? We need some kind of class to drive the other class that you're writing. So if you're writing multiple classes, you have one main class, and the other ones kind of come off that. And really, it's a test class, if you will. We don't need it all the time, but in this case, we're using it to drive the program, right? So to test class patient. Now, some people might say you might want to call this patient test or the test patient class. You could also call it program, your main class or whatever. Call it whatever. Well, main might not be the right name, but other classes, or maybe you want to call it exercise 1, the exercise 1 class, right? Whatever that makes sense for you, that works. Okay, test your code thoroughly, and then let the user enter patient's data. Obviously, you're going to use a scanner method for this, right, on the console, and then display the results in the console window with your printfs and all that kind of stuff. Okay. So that's really exercise 1 for 5 marks, okay? Exercise 2, 5 marks, right? Again, this is all due by Friday, right? In this exercise, you will develop a Java application that allows the user to process account information. Create a class named bank account. A bank account contains information about the account number, right? Account number, which is something that I think we need to know. So there might be something like this there. And again, there's different solutions to this. Owner's name, right? So we can even make it like this, owner's name, right? And you see where I'm going with that, right? As an example. And the balance, this is the balance, right? These are the, you look to me, these are like the instance variables. Provide a constructor, right here it is, that allows the user to initialize the account data, all right? So in the constructor, you're going to have something that initializes account number, owner's name, and balance, right? Provide all getter methods, right? Getter methods, and provide the setter methods that allow the user to withdraw or deposit money. So these are 2 methods, maybe a withdraw method and a deposit method. They set the account data, because if I withdraw, then what am I doing here, right? I'm changing my balance, right? And if I deposit, I'm also changing my balance. One is negative, the other one is positive. Very, very simple, right? Provide a get account info method, right, to return account information in a nicely formatted string, printf. When a driver class, write a driver class to test the bank account. The driver class or the main class interacts with a user and calls bank account methods to initialize or update the account. That's it. Both are 5 marks. Both these exercises, and I said it looks like it says, see how it says week 3? Because that's this week. It'll be due by Friday. So when I say week 3, that means it's we'll say Friday. What week is what day is this? Is what 25th? 25th, Friday 25th, which is we're in September, so Friday, September 25th. 2015, right? And we'll say at midnight, at or before midnight. Okay, if I can spell. So lots of time. So it's not like you don't have. This is like, again, to me, I'm sorry to tell you, but this is a stupidly easy assignment, right? It really what it does is it says creating a Java application with Eclipse. You're going to create a couple of exercises here. And now, what is this assignment worth? Now, if you look at our, I'm going over this very simply with you, only because I want to make sure that we're all good. If I look at my outline, and if I look at my lab assignment using Java methods, that's really not what we're doing here. We're actually doing a kind of a beginning assignment. And if you notice, our total marks for the assignment are worth 5%. So even though there's 2, and the points for the assignment is out of 10, the total value is 5% of your final mark. right? The second one as well, 5% of your final mark. So total of 10%. Okay, so let's go back there. So then value then for the assignment, is 5%. Okay, so let's put this up. I'm just going to put this up on eCentennial here. So we're going to go here, and I'm going to create a new Dropbox so you can start this assignment today if you like. I'm going to go new folder, and we're going to call this assignment 1. This is really your first assignment. Right? Again, it's from a category perspective. We're going to make it into the assignments category. That's where you'll see it pop up, right? It's not a lab. It's a little bit more than a lab because labs are like less than 5% kind of thing. We're going to make a new grade item called assignment 1. And what we're going to also do, oops, I messed that one up. It's going to be out of 5, right? And just from a rubric perspective or instructions, I'm going to upload my little file, right? That should say, here on 228, blah, blah, assignment 1. Okay, so you have all the details. It should be up in a second. Okay, so it's not quite done yet. From a restrictions perspective, again, it'll be due has a due date of this Friday, the 25th, by midnight. Now, normally only defaults to 11:30, and sometimes we have to do this. So by the way, if you see it at like a weird assignment time or something at times, and you go, Professor, something went wrong. Your assignment that says, as an example, this, it's supposed to be due, what you said, it's due way out. It's not the right, due date or whatever. Please let me know so I can fix it, because that would be really bad. So total marks, total of 10 points for the assignment, right? Because 5 and 5. But total weight of the assignment is only 5, right? And you can exceed if you do extra work. For example, I'm not asking you to do J-option pane and all that kind of stuff in message boxes. But if you want to push yourself, I'm always interested in looking to see if you can go beyond what I've asked you to do. And I always try and offer you an opportunity to get extra points, right? So can I give you like double? No, right? But I can give you a few extra points for a percent or whatever, or 0.5%, something like that if you do extra, right? So please, don't look at this as the bare minimum that you can do. If you notice, the total weight is 5, right, for this one, but total maximum points is 10. It's up for this one. Okay, so that's number 1. Any questions about assignment 1 and any concerns around it being due Friday? It's really not a difficult assignment to do. In fact, if anything, the second one is just as easy. Sorry? You're going to submit it up on Dropbox. So I'm not asking you to put together when I say put it up on Dropbox, take the whole assignment itself, zip it up, kind of thing, the whole folder, zip it up for me, put it in Dropbox, and then all I need to do is open it up in Eclipse, and away you go, right? You can also, just to be safe, if you're concerned, if somehow I didn't get it, please don't email it to me. That would be very bad, because I just don't have the capacity for that in my email. But what might be really cool is if you also included a link to your GitHub. It's not mandatory. But however, if you included it because you wanted to kind of, as a backup, I'm good with that. So that's a good backup for you. If you want to also learn GitHub, it's a good skill to understand and learn. Okay, so that's assignment 1. Yeah.
Do we need to create a new workspace to put the assignment, or just put the default workspace?
You can use the default workspace as long as you take the folder from your workspace, your default workspace. Like, I don't need all your stuff in your workspace, just that assignment. So you can zip up that assignment or compress it somehow. Please don't use RAR. That would be bad, right? Try and use WinZip if you're using a Windows machine. That would be better. And any kind of, if you're using a Mac somehow or whatever, you can certainly use the default archiver that's built in. But try and update that, and that's all I would ask, okay? So if I could ask somebody to go into that assignment and check to see if that assignment information is correct. I just want to make sure that we're good today, because we're kind of doing this off the cuff because of some changes that kind of occurred. There's assignment 2. Let's talk about assignment 2, because I want to kind of do a couple of them for you. I know Tyler was chomping at the bit last week. He's like, "Come on, give me some more. Give me work. I want to do work now." All right, Tyler, here we go. So, let's pull up assignment 2 a little bit and talk about this one. This was due week 4. Okay, we're talking about when. This one's a little bit more challenging to do. That's why I'm giving you until the end of next week. Okay, so this will be due week 4, and it'll be Friday, September by week 4, right? And I'm not sure if it's September or October now. Let's take a look.
October.
Is it October 2nd? Damn, right? That's quick. Hey, we have to talk about October 3rd and 4th too. October 2nd by 2015, and it's at midnight. Okay, so midnight. Here we go. So again, that kind of gives you some time to do this one as well. This value, again, for this one is going to be worth, value is worth 5% of your final grade. That's what it is. So it's not anything different, right? And let's take a look at this one. So write a Java application that simulates a test. Okay, this is a little more challenging. The test contains at least 5 questions about the first 3 lectures of this course. Okay, cool. Each question should be a multiple choice question with 4 options. So that's 5 questions with 4 options. So this is just data entry, right? Like this is a lot of data entry to figure out. Now it says, here's an example. Create a method to simulate the questions. Simulate question. Create a method to check the answer. Check answer, right? Here's some stuff that you can use. Program-defined methods that are recommended that you kind of produce. So we're doing lots of methods here. It's method practice. That's what it is, right? Create a method to display a random message for the user. Simulate message. And create a method to interact with the user. Input, answer, whatever, right? All right, for each question, if the user finds the right answer, you make up the questions on your own, whatever you want to ask them. I mean, there's no hard and fast rule about this, right? Display a random congratulatory message. So he gets the right answer, excellent, good, keep up the good work or nice work. Some random message that comes up. We'll talk about random generation today anyway.
Should it be random or
random?
Should it evaluate the answer?
No, this is if he gets the right answer, right? If it's the right answer, some random good thing, excellent, use good, whatever. If the user responds incorrectly, so this is if he gets the right answer or she gets the right answer. If the user gets the wrong answer incorrectly, display an appropriate message and the correct answer. So no, please try again. Wrong, try once more. Please don't use bad language in your answer. Okay, don't say something like frag, you suck. Like it would be that would be really bad, right? Think about it like you're actually creating something for a for some kind of company, right? Use random number generation to choose a number between 1 and 4 that will be used to select the appropriate message. So in other words, there's going to be 2 random numbers that you're going to use, and there's an example switch statement that you can use depending on your random object next int 4, as an example, up to 4 answers. Case 0, very good. Case 1, whatever it's going to be, right? Excellent, good, whatever. So a switch statement might be the right syntax for this random number for both of your good positive answers, right answers, and your incorrect answers. Okay, that's it really in a nutshell. At the end of the test, display the number of correct and incorrect answers and the percentage of the correct answers. Your main class or your driver class, right, will simply create a test object and start the test by calling input answer method. So very straightforward. This part is worth 7 points, right, out of the 10 that you're going to be marked on. Okay, here's exercise 2 for this lab. Exercise 2 is a little bit smaller, right? This is easy, actually. You should do this one first. To get their 3 points right away, right? Design a die class with 1 instance variable to hold an integer value from 1 to 6. You could call it die, right? Or the dice, or whatever you want to call it, right? Include a constructor that randomly assigns a value to a die object. Okay, so there's my die object, right? And yeah, and then also include a method in the class to return the die's value. Die value, right? Or get value, get die value, whatever, make it up. Use this class to create a simple dice game in which the user chooses a number between 2 and 12. So choose a number would be on the console. Use the scanner method to get the guy to choose a number. Choose a number between 2 and 12. Okay, good. The user rolls 2 dice up to 3 times. If the number chosen by the user comes up, the user wins and the game ends. If the number does not come up within 3 rolls, the computer wins. Guys, this is dumb, right? In terms of how easy it is, right? And I know some of you may say, well, I don't understand. If you don't understand, put up your hand, right? And we'll try and deal with it. What I'm saying when I say dumb, I mean it's very straightforward. It doesn't take a lot of thinking here. All we're doing is we're practicing methods, right? This is method practice. That's what this is, right? So that's why when it says assignment 2, and I'm making it due next Friday, you may say, hey, you're giving me 2 assignments at once. Yes, I am, right? One of them is due this week, which is it's really easy. And the other one's due next week is kind of a little bit more difficult. This one's not difficult. It's just long, this piece. This exercise number 1 of assignment 2, not difficult. If you really follow what it says here, and you go through the methodology here, you'll be okay. It'll take a little longer to write this one, right? But it's not difficult. This one is short and easy, right? So, I think that's why it's worth 3 marks, the other worth 7 marks. Again, this one will be worth 5% of your final grade. So both together, there's 10% of your final grade, plus the 2.5% that I already gave you, I believe, or something like that for the first thing we did together, the first lab. All right, so let's just save this thing. And now that I saved it, I'm going to go into Dropbox, and let's put it up on Dropbox too, so you can start working on this one as well if you're a go-getter, right? Let's check this out. So again, I'm going to assign this to the assignments category. We're going to call this assignment 2. I can actually type assignment 2. And the grade item is going to be a new grade item that we're going to make called assignment 2. So you'll see it pop up on your here in up online at eCentennial. Maximum points is 10, but the total weight is 5, and you can exceed if you add extra things in there to make it more interesting. I'll take a look, right? Like, for example, if you use a UI, if you do other things to make it make your assignment more realistic. I'm going to add a file in here to tie it up. Can you please, has someone looked at assignment 1 yet to make sure it's correct?
Yes.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure that you can look at that and there's no issues, right? I don't want any problems with this. And let's make sure the restrictions are correct. I want to go into has due date of next week on the 2nd. And again, it would be at 11:59 p.m. So lots of time to get all this stuff done. So there's 2 assignments here that'll test you a little bit, not much, right? That would be it. Any questions around these 2? So again, 2 assignments, one due this Friday by midnight, the other one that's due next week, Friday by midnight. First one is pretty easy, but it'll get you going with Eclipse and everything else. If you haven't had a chance to roll into Eclipse or use the stuff and practice, this is a great chance to kick it into high gear kind of stuff for yourself. And again, this combined with everything else for 10%. Remember what I talked to you guys about in the beginning. One thing I'd like to mention, and let's take a look at our outline one more time. So if I look at our outline, remember what it looks like. It's pretty laden with tests, right? Mark tests 25% for the midterm and 25% for test number 2 for the final. This makes me really nervous for you guys, right? Like, I'm just being honest. It makes me really nervous, right? So how can we mitigate this stuff? And what would I do to make it easier? Well, next week is week 4, which is a good time for testing, right? So my plan is, and again, unless you guys are against it, right? Like you put your hand up, go, no, don't do it, Tom, right? I want to break up that big 25% test into 2 smaller tests. One that's 10% next week, and another one that's going to be 15% that has a practical and a testing piece for the midterm, right? It'll make it a little bit easier to swallow, right? If I give you 25% at once, some of you might choke, right? I don't want you guys to choke 25%, right? I want you guys to be have it a little easier. So let's take a look at our schedule to make sure that it aligns. Now, there's some problems with doing this, okay? Next week is Chapter 8, right? Chapter 8 talks about advanced object-oriented programming in Java, right? And this is a deeper look at classes. The good thing is we're only handling 1 freaking chapter, right? Not 2 like this week. This week is just mad, right? Okay, we're kind of going outside the schedule just a little bit when we do this kind of stuff. But if you look at the Chapter 8 as an example, I could probably handle that in the evening class, the evening piece, where I do a little bit of stuff. So it's really critical that you would watch the video next week or attend class, whatever you want to do, right? But during the day, this session, this period of time, so let's say between 10:30 and 12:30, I'll run your test, right? Next week, right? Now, just don't panic, right? What I'm going to be testing you on, right, if you notice, is Chapter 1, 2, 3, 6, 7. Stuff that we're going to cover today. We'll test you on that kind of stuff, right? When I say test, it'll be purely a multiple choice test. So there won't be something that you have to do a practical. You're doing your practical. You're doing 2 assignments this week and next week. So it kind of covers that piece, right? And it'll give you a chance to do your test, which is also worth 10% of your mark, right? But purely multiple choice, true, false, maybe some matching questions or whatever. I probably will scale it to be about an hour long. So maybe maximum 60 questions, maximum. I won't do more than that. And that'll be the very top. I might go lower, maybe 45, I don't know. And then, you'll have your 2 hours or an hour and 50 minutes or whatever it is to do it. Okay, I'm not going to make it so it's only an hour and then we do more stuff. When you're done your test, sayonara. See you later for the day, and we'll see you in the evening during when I do my broadcast. Okay, so nice and easy. I'm doing this because I don't want you guys to choke on the final. Or the midterm. I think the midterm is 25% might be too much for you, right? And it'll give you another chance to evaluate how you're doing and really brush up on some of the stuff. So when I do the test, what will it be around, right? Like, how do I do my tests? One, it's open book, right? So you can use your your book, you can use your PowerPoint slides, and all those kind of things. Now remember, there's going to be 60-something questions, right? So if you don't know where to look, it's going to eat up all your time. So the thing to do is practice. I may also put in some programming-related questions, even though it's multiple choice. I might ask you to do take a look at this code. What is it going to produce? Like one of those kind of questions, right? So it won't just be simple terms. It won't be like, what's a class? what's a method? And tell me what an overloaded signature is. And da-da-da. No. It'll be like actual, take a look at this class or this particular code. What does it produce, right? It might be one of those. So if you don't know your work, don't know what you're looking at, your PowerPoints may not help so much, right? But you have access to all that. The only thing I'd ask you not to do, you won't have access to the internet. So you won't be able to Google anything during the test, just FYI, right? You need to do a little bit of reading. And if you work on your Eclipse stuff, the stuff I'm going to give you for this Friday, and if you start working on your assignment for the one that's due by next Friday, you'll be okay, right? If you don't do those kind of things, practical, and you don't read your book at all, or you don't look at your PowerPoint slides, then the test will be a hell test for you, right? Because you haven't looked at anything in it. You're doing it last minute. So please, I'd wholeheartedly encourage you to prepare yourself. I think it's a good opportunity for you to get a little bit higher marks. So that when it comes to the midterm, we do a mixed midterm, which is going to be both practical and kind of a multiple choice test. You'll have an opportunity to for that piece to to kind of do more. On that, there's a bit of an issue when you look at some of these kind of the way we're flowing here. So that's number 4, week 4. Let's take a look. Week 5, when it comes to inheritance in Java, and week 6, which is polymorphism in Java, where we have 2 different chapters, chapter 9 and 10. If you notice, right, they're related chapters. Chapter 9 and 10 are very closely related, right? They're big chapters. But what I'm hoping to do, and I'm just going to put it out there for you, is I don't want to teach anything week 7, right? Week 6, by the way, officially, the real week 6 here during our October week, which is, I believe, the week of Thanksgiving week. So that's October 10th to something. We're off, right? That's our kind of our break. So as we're trudging along, we will only get to week 5, inheritance in Java, right, before the break. Our break happens week 6 in the semester for whatever reason. And then we have another 8 weeks to go in a row, right? So you're off in week 6. We come back in week 7. And week 7, we do the exam, right? That's what's going to happen, right? So here's my challenge. I can't teach anything to you on that week because I want to give you kind of like, exam that has both practical pieces and multiple choice. What is the multiple choice going to cover and the practical pieces? Well, we're going to cover in week 4, which is next week, a little bit, chapter 8, which is going to be advanced objects, right? And in classes, chapter 9, chapter 10, right? That's what the exam will cover. And chapter 12 somehow, right? I got to fit all that into the midterm, right? So 8, 9, 10, and 12, right? Okay, but that means that in one of the weeks, probably week 5, I'm going to probably squeeze in inheritance and polymorphism into one. Not like you've never done it before. You already know inheritance and polymorphism from a C# perspective, so it'll just be review for you, right? And it'll be some new things that there's some things that are archetypically different in Java than they are in C#. Don't worry about that. That won't be a big deal, right? And you're probably going to get some kind of other assignment around this time as well, because if you notice, I've got assignment number 1 and 2 due by next week, by 4th, and then I probably fit in assignment 3 somewhere between that as well, right? So it's going to be pretty packed for the rest of the this half of the semester, but rest assured that by week 7, so week 6 when you get back, right, from from your break, because week 5 we're good, and then week 6 we're off, and then the 6th week of class, pretty much you're into UI programming, and I want to spend that whole week doing UI in swing, swing classes, the J option panes, all these different things on how to create the UI, and I'll probably just spend week 6 doing all that stuff, right? And then week 7 will be your midterm. Okay, so there won't be any teaching during that week. Okay, this means that's the 1 week in week 7 that we won't be able to do a broadcast at night, right? Just FYI, you'd have to physically be here for that week because I need you to be here to do your test, right? Hey, here's what I'm going to do. The practical test, right? And I'm going to put this out there to you, go in the wind, right? The practical test I'm going to make you guys do is going to be during this time, right? So we're together early, you guys are awake, right? And then the multiple choice test, we'll make it after, right? So that way, if you're not awake, even if you're not awake, right, kind of thing, you'll still be okay. I'll probably be splitting things up a little bit like this, just from an organizational perspective. I usually try and make the practical test and the multiple choice equal. And you might like, what? Practical should be worth more. Yes, I should make it worth more, right? But practically, people aren't good at practical tests. So I want to give you a chance to do well, right? So this first half of the semester anyway, it'll be like that. But here's what's going to happen second half. In your final midterm or your final exam, if you will, I'll make the practical weigh a little bit more than your multiple choice. So that's where you'll kind of have to pay for it later, right? Which means you have to practice and practice with Eclipse and everything else to get good. So by the time we get to the final exam, you'll be good to go. You'll know you've already had a lot of practice, and in order for you to get all this stuff done. Okay. Any questions around this plan that I've got going on? It's not for me to make it easier for me. It's for me to make it easier on you, right? I could not have a test next week, but then you'd have a 25% test on the midterm, which would be heavy duty, right? And I'd probably have to weigh it like 12 and a half and 12 and a half, right? So equal. That may not be such a good idea. There's going to be a lot more multiple choice questions, and it'll probably take up all of your period to do, and it'll be challenging for you to do both things. I don't really think that's fair, right? So that's why I'm breaking it up, number one. And the second thing is that from an assignment perspective, I don't want to make it assignment hell for you, right? So that's why I'm giving you these 2 assignments at once, kind of in advance, so you see them. You can kind of work in on them, get them done, and you can plan out your week a little better, because I'm sure you're getting assignments from other people, other professors at the same time. From my guesses, you are, right? So, and so that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. So let's end this video just like this, talking about assignments and tests, and then we'll get into the heart of things when we come back.